Why Ibrahim Traoré doesn't shake hands. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, often seen in military fatigues and tactical gloves, has made headlines for his habit of avoiding the traditional handshake in public. Traoré typically forgoes handshakes in favor of alternative greetings, most famously the informal fist bump or a simple salute. It's become rare to see him offer a traditional handshake, as one profile noted, with the young Burkina Faso leader instead adopting a down-to-earth, soldierly demeanor in his public interactions. This distinctive greeting style has been widely observed at official events and diplomatic meetings, setting him apart from the usual political protocol. Notable examples of avoiding handshakes. Traoré's no-handshake approach has been on display during high-profile encounters. In January 2025, at the inauguration of Ghana's President John Mahama, Traoré pointedly refused to shake hands with Kenyan President William Ruto, a gesture that drew widespread notice. According to reports from that event, Traoré instead went straight to the podium to pointedly address Ruto, pointedly snubbing the pro-West Kenyan leader. Even when meeting representatives of the Catholic Church, Traoré maintained his style. For example, instead of a handshake, he offered a fist-bump greeting to Pope Francis's envoy, Cardinal Parolin, during the Vatican delegation's visit. On the international stage, images from the July 2023 Russia-Africa summit showed Traoré greeting Russian officials with a clasped fist while visibly carrying a sidearm at his hip, underscoring his preference for a clenched fist gesture over the typical open palm handshake. Interestingly, Traoré does make rare exceptions, which only highlights the symbolism of his usual stance. Observers noted that he reserves handshakes for those he deeply respects, and so far only 2 leaders have received a full handshake from him. One was Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Traoré was photographed firmly shaking Putin's hand during their meeting at the St. Petersburg summit in 2023, after even removing a glove to do so. The other was Ghana's newly elected President John Mahama. At the Accra inauguration, Traoré actually shook Mahama's hand in a show of goodwill. In another courteous gesture at that event, Traoré was seen doffing his beret before shaking hands with Jane Nana Opoku-Agyemang, Ghana's first female vice president, as a mark of respect. These rare handshakes were laden with meaning, signaling trust and high regard in those specific relationships. Symbolic interpretations in media. Traoré's habit of not shaking hands has sparked extensive public speculation and symbolic interpretation in African media and online discourse. Many supporters interpret his fist bump and salute greetings as a symbol of solidarity and revolution. The raised fist is historically associated with anti-colonial struggle and Pan-African unity, and Traoré's use of it plays into that imagery. One commentator noted that his simple fist greeting has become symbolic among his supporters, especially younger Africans who see it as reflecting a down-to-earth approach and a break from elitist formalities. In Burkina Faso and across Francophone Africa, images of Traoré greeting crowds with a clenched fist or a crisp military salute have circulated as emblems of his populist, no-nonsense style. By contrast, the handshake in African diplomacy often signifies cordiality or compromise, so Traoré's deliberate avoidance of it is seen as a statement that he isn't a typical politician. As one African outlet quipped, he didn't climb into office through elections or handshakes, underscoring that Traoré came to power by force and refuses to play the usual political game of cordial backslapping. In this sense, not shaking hands has become part of his persona as a stern military leader who favors action over politicking. Media and analysts also point out the imagery of Traoré constantly armed and unyielding in public. He is frequently photographed in combat uniform, even at formal occasions, sometimes toting a firearm and wearing tactical gloves, which by itself discourages the casual handshake. A Burkina Faso commentator remarked on un président avec une arme qui fait des gestes de poing au lieu de serrer des mains. A president with a weapon, making fist gestures instead of shaking hands. This image projects strength and vigilance, reinforcing a narrative that Traoré is a revolutionary figure who literally and figuratively keeps his guard up. The fist bump, in this context, is more than just informal warmth. It's a symbolic gesture of resilience and defiance, aligning with the anti-colonial, assertive rhetoric that Traoré often espouses. Speculated reasons: military, security, and culture. Because Traoré himself has not explicitly explained his no-handshake habit, Observers have proposed various reasons. Military discipline is one commonly cited factor. As a career army captain, Traoré might simply prefer the military norms of greeting, a sharp salute or a nod, over civilian handshakes. His stiff, formal bearing in public suggests he carries his soldierly ethos into his role as head of state. Even in diplomatic settings, he often stands at attention or with hands clasped, rather than reaching out for a palm-to-palm greeting. This could reflect an ingrained sense of hierarchy and protocol from army life, where subordinates salute superiors and camaraderie is shown in other ways. In other words, esprit de corps and discipline may underlie his restrained style of greeting, as opposed to the more casual, tactile politicking of civilian leaders. Another widely discussed reason is distrust and personal security. Given Burkina Faso's turbulent politics and Traoré's position as a junta leader who seized power, it's speculated that he avoids handshakes out of an abundance of caution. Physical contact can pose a security risk, both from a personal safety standpoint and even due to fears of poisoning or spiritual attack. In West African political folklore, there are indeed stories of assassins administering poison via a handshake using toxins smeared on the palm. While this might sound like legend, the threat of covert assassination is very real for a leader who has survived coup plots and faces enemies. Some social media chatter has openly suggested they want to poison him as the reason Ibrahim Traoré never shakes hands, reflecting public awareness of such tactics. By keeping his hands to himself, often literally gloved, Traoré minimizes the risk of any harmful substance or device being passed to him in a crowd or a meeting. Moreover, the psychology of distrust fits with Traoré's situation. He came to power by ousting a fellow officer and knows well the betrayals of politics. Thus, not shaking hands could be his way of maintaining a guarded stance, showing that he doesn't easily trust even fellow officials. In a recent piece on the threats facing Traoré, it was noted that he didn't come to power through handshakes, implying he owes little to political niceties and remains wary of those around him. Cultural and personal values may also play a role. In Burkina Faso and Sahelian culture, handshakes are common greetings, but there are also norms about whom and how one greets. Traoré is a devout Muslim and a member of a traditional society. While Islam does not forbid male-to-male handshakes, there is a strong emphasis on purity and intention. Some speculate that Traoré's restrained physical contact signals humility and focus, that he prefers to bow slightly or place his hand on his heart in respect, rather than engage in overly familiar embraces or handshakes, especially with those he does not know well. Notably, when he met Ghana's female vice president, he was very conscious of etiquette, removing his hat and greeting her with decorum, suggesting he is mindful of respectful conduct. This indicates that his avoidance of handshakes is situational rather than dogmatic. He will shake a hand if custom or deep respect absolutely calls for it, but otherwise he defaults to a more reserved greeting. Additionally, by not shaking dozens of hands at ceremonies, as many politicians do, Traoré could be signaling a kind of egalitarianism. Everyone gets a salute or fist bump, and only a select few get the handshake. Culturally, this elevates the handshake to a special honor rather than a routine formality. Political messaging and public reception. Beyond personal habit, Traoré's greeting style has become a form of political messaging. Who he chooses not to shake hands with can speak volumes. For instance, his cold shoulder to President Ruto was widely read as a snub rooted in politics. Ruto has been critical of military takeovers and aligned with Western positions, whereas Traoré positions himself as anti-Western and revolutionary. By ignoring Ruto's hand, Traoré sent a deliberate signal of disapproval and asserted his own stance without saying a word. In contrast, when Traoré did extend his hand to President Mahama in Ghana, commentators described this handshake was a profound statement, symbolizing mutual respect and a shared vision for the future of Africa. Likewise, shaking Putin's hand was laden with meaning. It showcased his openness to global allies who support his vision, and it visually cemented the Burkina-Russia friendship in the eyes of the public. In essence, Traoré uses the handshake as a diplomatic currency that he grants only to those he trusts or wants to honor. For everyone else, the fist bump or salute keeps relationships businesslike and somewhat distant. Among the Burkina Faso public and many Africans on social media, Traoré's refusal to shake hands has largely enhanced his image as an incorruptible, vigilant leader. Far from seeing it as rudeness, supporters applaud it as an expression of integrity. He won't shake hands in backroom deals or show fake camaraderie. Memes and posts celebrate how they were expecting a handshake, but he prefers to chop knuckle, meaning he'll bump fists and stay true to himself. The consistency of this behavior reinforces his authenticity in the eyes of admirers. It aligns with his broader narrative of rejecting external interference and standing proud under Burkina Faso's flag. When crowds cheer him at rallies, Traoré often raises a clenched fist in the air rather than waving, which resonates as a sign of strength and unity. This imagery harks back to revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara, a national icon whom Traoré is often compared to, and projects a continuity of Burkina Faso's defiant spirit. Overall, Ibrahim Traoré's no-handshake habit is a multifaceted statement. It reflects his military background and cautious nature, serves as a subtle security measure, and carries rich symbolic weight in the current West African context. Media coverage and public commentary suggest that this gesture, or lack of one, is deliberately used to communicate trust or mistrust. In a time of upheaval and new leadership styles in the region, Traoré's refusal to shake hands has become a talking point about the kind of leadership he embodies. Disciplined, skeptical of old norms, culturally proud, and unabashedly bold. As one outlet summed up, a mere handshake, or its absence, from the Burkina Faso captain can speak louder than many words, conveying everything from solidarity or respect to defiance or caution, depending on the circumstance. And for now, at least, the world has learned not to be surprised when Captain Traoré greets even a president with a clenched fist instead of an open hand. Thank you for watching. Do you think Ibrahim Traoré's no-handshake style is a mark of strength or calculated symbolism? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.